Hello, welcome back. Once again, this is Deb Kitko coming to you from the Wayne County Public Library. And we already talked a little bit in part one about family group sheets and ancestry charts. And I want to continue on with this series of getting started. Yesterday we actually had our very first class in our 10-week series on getting started, and it was a great turnout. And so I want to take a little bit of time to review a little bit of what we have actually discussed in yesterday's class. So just so everyone can get up to speed. This is the handout I gave them. Just a little cover sheet indicating this is, the fall series of 2019 in terms of genealogy and local history. And I mentioned before, when you get started, you want to start with yourself and you want to work your way backwards. And you do not want to start with a well-known figure or, the family stories have been told that, you're related to General Anthony Wayne or Robert Jackson or someone like that. You want to start with yourself and you work your way backwards, systematically getting the documentation you need. Documentation referring to like the births, the deaths, the marriages, any type of tombstone inscriptions. You may want to get pictures of the tombstone as well. And I know a lot of times when you're first starting out, you actually know the information from the top of your head because you've lived it. I mean, you usually know your own birthday, your own birthplace, your parents and their birthdays, etc. But I really recommend that you go ahead and get the documents now, because right now the documents are usually available, and you never know what's here today may not be here tomorrow. So I really encourage either you can usually just get an uncertified copy or just a scanned image of some of the documents as you go through. But just go ahead and collect those if you don't already have them, and add them to your family history and to your collection. So you want to start with yourself and work your way backwards. And that's because our ancestors were not very creative when it came to naming their kids. They would usually name them after like a grandfather of the mom or the grandfather of the dad. And before you know, you may have 2 or 3 Williams born about the same time, born in the same county. And if you don't know which William you're actually descended from by working from yourself and working your way backwards, you can easily jump off onto the wrong branch. And then you can spend years actually researching the wrong branch of your family. And then when you're actually going back to review, you realize the mistake, and now you have to start all over again going on the right branch of the family. So you want to make sure you do it correctly the first time through the best you can. You want to start with write down what you know about you and your family. You may want to include names, dates, places of events, any type of place of residence that you've been in, occupations, if you have any type of military service, your church affiliation, if you do attend church. You want to write that down for yourself and for your aunts and uncles and your parents, just a lot of your immediate family to see what kind of information you have. Also, if you're like most families, there have been family stories that's been handed down. You may want to go ahead and take a moment and write down those family stories as well. You never know. Sometimes the family stories may have become like a fish story over time, but there's usually an element of truth within that family story. And that family story may give you a clue to what information you need to find on one of your direct ancestors as you go back in your family tree. You may want to record any family traditions. You may want to ask around if you do not know of any really family traditions that you've been a participant of. Ask your parents and your grandparents what some of their family traditions are. If you're from the older generation and you do not have any of your living relatives to talk with, this would be your time to leave a legacy for your kids and your grandkids or your nieces and nephews. Go ahead and write down your memories, write down your stories, write down the family traditions that you remember growing up as a kid or as a young adult or with young married life raising your own family. Because once you are gone, those memories will be gone with you. So it's very important that you record those kind of memories now while you're still around to actually, so you have a written record of that. Next, you want to look around your home. You'd be surprised what kind of information you may find just around your home. When I started genealogy, when I had a 6-week project back in 1988 as a high school project, my mom we only lived about 3 doors down from my mom's mother. And my mom and her mom would actually spend some time just going through a lot of the little family papers that my grandmother had accumulated over the years. She had black address books, for example. She had some obituaries. She had memorial cards. She had some personal letters. She actually had a compiled genealogy done on one of our families. And so Mom and my grandmother actually spent some time trying to compile that information to help me out with my project. And it's a good thing I actually started at a young age because I was able to actually gain a lot of insight from my grandmother. And not only did she know her family, but she also knew about her husband's family. So that was just a great treasure trove for me. So you may ask, well, I don't have anything around the home. Well, you may be surprised at what you may find. In yesterday's class, I actually had them think for a few minutes and offer some suggestions, and they came up with some great ideas. You know, you have the scrapbooks that may be full of pictures. They may be full of newspaper clippings. You have the diaries, you have journals, you may have family Bibles. You may actually have the memorial cards or the obituaries. You may have some other newspaper clippings. You may have some, back in the day, we actually physically send birth announcements whenever a new child was born within the family. Today they do that a lot on Facebook, but back years ago, they'd actually send a card. And so you may have some of those around the house. You may have some anniversary cards, some programs when you went to a wedding or a graduation party or graduation invitation. You may have some yearbooks, whether it's from your junior high or your high school. You may actually have some of your other school records, like report cards around the house. You may, if you're like how my mom was, she actually saved many of my projects from elementary school. So my mom still has those there at her home at this point. And although they're not, the projects themselves don't have much information, it's still, you can take a photograph of that and actually have it as part of your family history, that this is a craft that maybe you did as a young child or as a young elementary student going through. Once you actually look around the house, you want to try to contact some relatives, like I said, if you have any, and try to figure out what information that they may have that they may be able to provide for you to help out with your research. Eventually you have to get to that point. But at this point, you're gathering all this information. You have your stories, you may have some parent stories, you may have information from your grandparents or from your parents, and now you're stuck with a pile of paper, and now you have to figure out, well, how are you going to organize this? And that's where the ancestor chart and the family group sheet comes in that we talked about in part 1 of this session. So go ahead and continue updating those forms as you get more and more documents into your collection or more and more information. The fifth step I have that we talked about is actually preparing a research plan. This is something that I was not totally aware of when I first started in genealogy. It's something that I've become more accustomed with over the past several years. This is sort of, you could do like a to-do list also. A to-do list would be a simplified form of the research plan. If you're getting ready to go on research on, even on the internet, or you're about ready to actually travel to a county, it helps if you have some idea about what you're looking for. So you may actually want to set an objective. For example, one of my great-great-great-grandfather, Henry Stryker, the only thing my grandmother knew about him was that he died in 1855 of a heart attack. That's the only information I knew. But I went ahead and wrote that down. And so I want to my objective for my research plan would be to try to verify the death date of Henry Stryker, as well as find out the place of death, because my grandmother didn't know that. She didn't even know when he was born or where he was born. And through a little bit of research, I was able to find him in the 1850 census down in Hamilton Township over in Warren County, Ohio, which is on the southwestern part of Ohio. And I don't find him in the 1860 census. By 1860, his widow and a couple of his kids are now living in Noble County, and a couple other kids are actually living down in Washington County with other relatives. But my objective was to try to verify that death date. I have not been able to verify that death date yet because I'm assuming that he died in Ohio, and Ohio death records did not begin until 1867. I have not been able to find any type of probate court records yet on him, any property deeds. I have not found that written trail to verify, so I still have that research objective, still as my research plan. And you have to modify that research plan as you go through. As I was doing the research plan, I also realized I had to find out other information. I had to follow through on the known kids of Henry Stryker. And so I ended up having additional research plans to follow through on those, to see if I could find some clues tracing the children to find out more information about Henry Stryker. So that would be one example of doing a research plan. As part of that, not only do you want to say the objective, you also want to give an idea about what information you have, and then think about what resources may be available, and you jot down those resources that may be available to find the answer you're looking for on the other side of the sheet. And I'll show you a sample form that I designed a little while ago, so just stay tuned for that form. Well, you actually start with yourself. You record what you've known about you. You record some family histories, some family stories, some family traditions. You've gathered some information from relatives, hopefully, if you had any to gather information from. You've tried to look around the house for other clues, whether it's heirlooms, as well as like marriage records, birth records, death records, obituaries, estate settlements, divorce papers, naturalization papers, a lot. There's like a whole list of stuff that you may be able to find from the home. You've organized this information into a family group sheet, into an ancestor chart. You've started doing your research plans to try to figure out, where you're going to go so you don't hop off on a bunny trail, which happens quite often when you're doing genealogy. So now you're going to want to start your research. But I'm hoping, let me back up just a few moments here, because when you're actually corresponding with your relatives, whether through Facebook, through FaceTime, through email, through just actually calling them or visiting with them, you actually want to keep track of those correspondences, and so you can use a correspondence log for that. And basically, you just want to include the date that you corresponded, who you corresponded with, their contact information, what kind of information you're requesting from that information. And then when you get a reply back, you just make a notation that you did get a reply, and you mention if you need to have a follow-up, if the reply was successful, if it just didn't work out. And you want to keep track of these correspondences. That way, you do not repeat. I mean, there's nothing more embarrassing than contacting a cousin for family information, only for a couple years to go by, and you contact the same cousin for the same information again. That's you're almost humbling yourself when you do that. And you can avoid that error if you actually keep your correspondence log and keep it up to date in terms of what correspondence you do. And that's not only corresponding with your personal family or with other friends or with other individuals. You want to actually, if you correspond with repositories such as a public library, an archive center, a health department, a courthouse, anywhere like that, you actually want to actually record that in your correspondence log, so you know that you've contacted them for what purpose you have contacted them. So, for example, I haven't had a chance to go to Warren County, Ohio to do much research on the Henry Stryker clan, but I did write to the Genealogical Society over there, and they were very helpful. They did quite a bit of research for me for a fee. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make any type of definite connections over there, but I actually recorded that I corresponded with them for some information. I've also corresponded with a Genealogical Society member down in Noble County, and so that's recorded as part of my correspondence log as well. Once again, that didn't lead to many hits, so I'm still trying to trace this Henry Stryker character. He's just elusive, leaving no paper trail behind at this point that I can find. When you start the research, you're going to want to make sure you record what research you do in a research log. And once again, you want to record, the date you're doing the research, maybe what repository you're using, or what internet sites you may be using. Record what you're looking for. You may even want to mention some of the search terms you use. And you want to occasionally check back with some of the websites, because they do occasionally update things. So you may want to check the same type of searching capabilities. But you'll want to record the URL, the date, the type of website it was, if you had much success with it, if you didn't have success with it. If you're looking at a book, record that kind of information. You can record it in a microfilm if you use that. You just want to make sure you make a list of everything that you have used in order to try to find your ancestors. And record the sources if you do find information or if you do not find information, because I don't know how many times I've went back to the same book to look for the same thing because I did not have it listed on my research log. So this is an option for you. So if you actually record everything as you're researching, then you'll save some time in the long run. Yes, it is time consuming initially, but it will save you a whole lot of time in the end. So So you want to use some research logs, to help out, continue to update your ancestry chart, your family group sheets, etc. as you continue on this journey. And so that's a lot of what we talked a little bit about yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit more about record types as we go through this, through the 10-week series, and I'll talk about different record types also through this YouTube channel. So if you're interested, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube. We'd actually appreciate your subscription. So until next time, go ahead and continue with those family group sheets, those ancestry charts, your research plans, and try to plan your attack for your research. Until next time, this is Deborah, just checking out. Talk to you later. Bye.